Welcome back to that lore thing that you watch that you love so much. Today we're talking about the edgy furries and the Bionicle with tits. Okay, so first of all, this video is a direct continuation of my last video. It's about the same characters in the situation they were in at the end of that video. Go watch that video before you watch this one if you want any kind of fighting chance of understanding what's going on today. But to briefly set the scene, the Toa Metru, defenders of the city of Metronui, defeated the evil Master of Shadows Makuta and imprisoned him, but not before he succeeded in destroying most of the universe, rendering the entire population comatose and casting God into eternal slumber. So the Toa Metru sailed away from Metronui to find the Matoran a new home, which they succeeded in doing, and now they are sailing back to get the Matoran and take them there. And that's pretty much it. We're caught up now. I'm not gonna waste time on a big intro. Let's get right into it. Part 2, the Metronui era. Part 2, the Great Rescue. So the Toa arrive in Metronui, and things are bad. The earthquake caused by the Great Cataclysm has totally destroyed the city. The Vaki, Metronui's robot cops, were mostly destroyed, but the ones that are still around are corrupted and now think the best way to maintain order is just kill everything. But most problematically for the Toa, Metronui has been invaded by the Visorak. The Visorak are spiders. I mean, that's basically all there is to say about them, so let's move on. No, okay, I'm kidding. Look, so Makuta does not work alone. He runs an organization called the Brotherhood of Makuta, and the Brotherhood has many members, a ton of resources, and several armies at its disposal. And one of those armies is the Visorak Horde. And Makuta telepathically summoned them to Metronui after he got stuck in the Toa Seal in order to stop the Toa from doing what they're here to do. Now, as a set, I actually kind of love the Visorak. I think they're really cool. I think their colors look great. They've got these closing pincers, and most of the rubber bands in mine broke because, you know, they're 20 years old. I'm actually shocked that any of them still work. This one still works, but most of those back there I had to twist tie their pincers open or else they'd look dumb. The Visorak are also as good an opportunity as any for me to introduce our new Gimmick Alert for 2005. Roodaka Spinners. Roodaka Spinners are created by Roodaka launchers, which are biological or mechanical weapons. Actually, I guess they're all mechanical because we're talking about, like, cyborgs. They're either part of your body or not, which shoot out a wheel of energy that does something different for everyone who has one, from making fire, causing dehydration, paralysis, mutation. Roodaka Spinners can basically do anything. In terms of plot relevance, Roodaka Spinners are, like, kind of important. Everybody in this era uses one as their primary weapon, and the effects of some Roodaka Spinners factor into the backstory of some characters, but for the most part, it's just like, hey, this year everybody's gonna shoot a wheel. Now, in terms of functionality as a gimmick, Roodaka Spinners are, like, probably the best one Bionicle ever had. If you've ever shot a Beyblade, or even used one of those, like, spinny hand propeller, I'm not explaining this well, I'll put a picture of one of those, then you understand the basic inherent appeal of firing a Roodaka Spinner. There are, however, two issues with them. One is the ripcord. See, in order to fire a Roodaka Spinner, you have to pull out this ripcord, and that means that the ripcord has to be incorporated into the design of the set, and that doesn't always work well. For the Visorak, it works okay. You can see it more clearly from the bottom. See, it's coming out here and here, but it looks fine. But for some other things, it does not look fine, and I'll show you when we get to that. Now, the other issue with Roodaka Spinners, and probably the more pressing one, I'm actually just gonna demonstrate this one. Watch this. So I sort of saw where that went, but it doesn't matter because I'm never going to find it. See, Roodaka Spinners have this amazing property where once you fire them one time, they exit reality, which was actually a very shrewd business decision on Lego's part because they sold extra boxes of Roodaka Spinners knowing the kids would get a taste of the power of shooting a spinner, and then they'd exit reality into the fucking back rooms and you'd need to go out and get more. So anyway, the Toa Metru show up in Metronui, and it's overrun with Visorak. They're everywhere. They've got their webs set up. There's hundreds, if not thousands of them. So at this point, seeing that these spiders have taken over the entire city, the reasonable course of action would be for the Toa to lay low, figure out a plan, take things slowly, something to that effect. But unfortunately, they're being led by Vakama, the Toa Fire and main character of this era, and Vakama has other plans. See, I mentioned at the end of the last episode that Vakama has been engaging in a lot of that thing due to his resentment and sadness and anger over his many failures. But before, Vakama's that thing took the form of him being kind of brusque and mean and maybe a little bit cruel with his teammates, whereas now he's evolved into just being a straight up idiot. He's in a huge rush, he's ignoring everything that Lekon tried to teach him, he's treating his teammates like children. At this point, pretty much nobody on the team respects him, especially Onewa and Matau, who are actively trying to undermine his leadership, which is reasonable because it's bad. And he sees the horrible situation that Metronui is in, and the Visorak all over the place, and he's like, I don't care about any of this at all. We're going straight to the Colosseum to free the Matoran, and then we're gonna leave. I've never been afraid of a spider once in my life. And then within actual seconds of showing up at the Colosseum, they get ambushed by Visorak, taken out, and then strung up in web cocoons from its tallest spire to be dropped to their deaths. So they're hanging up there about to die, and everyone is taking this opportunity to be like, Vakama, you stupid motherfucker. And Vakama gives this non-answer. He's like, well, what I've learned from this is that I can never change, and no matter what I do, I am who I am. And as they're hanging up there having this conversation, the leaders of the Visorak arrive to watch their deaths. Now, the Visorak have two leaders, both of which are not themselves Visorak. They're like people. Both of these leaders are servants of the Brotherhood of Makuta and have been vying for Makuta's favor for hundreds of years. The first one is the Visorak king, Sidorak. Sidorak is kind of a weak, incompetent, arrogant, pompous dumbass, but he's still a better warrior than like a Toa, and he's also a pretty good tactician, meaning that he's good at the only tactic he knows, which is take 1,000 Visorak and just steamroll over everything in his way. The only reason he's king of the Visorak is that he stole credit for a major victory from the other leader of the Visorak, their viceroy, Roodaka. Okay. Listen, Roodaka here is actually a very good character. She's this backstabbing, duplicitous, sociopathic monster who is constantly manipulating everyone around her. She despises Sidorak for stealing what was meant to be her throne and has been plotting against him for years, and she's now trying to break Makuta out of his prison to gain his favor and take control of the Visorak. But I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you guys, none of this actually matters, because Roodaka's legacy is and always will be that she is the Bionicle with tits. Like, there's really no getting around this, right? She has breasts, straight up, and also heels and hair and sort of like hips and thighs and an hourglass thing going. Like, Lego, you guys have no chill at all. Come on, man. I see Roodaka as sort of a Lola Bunny or Rouge the Bat kind of situation, where they took one non-human female character in a kid's franchise and they were like, okay, she's gonna be the sexy one. And like, why? Because what gets me about this is a design like this doesn't just like happen. It's not just like, oh, whoops, we gave the Bionicle titties. Somebody has to design this and then a lot of other people have to sign off on it before it actually gets made. This was extremely intentional. Like, are you trying to turn people into furries? Or, I mean, she doesn't have fur, so I don't know what, like mechies? Let's go with that, mechies. Are you trying to turn people into mechies? Because let me tell you something. This had extremely predictable results. Like, I didn't make this image, okay? This is not me memeing. Somebody else made this. I hope, ironically. Roodaka actually brings me quite neatly to something else that I've been meaning to talk about for a while now, which is the Love Retcon. So, at some point, I think probably around 2006, Bionicle head writer and Daedric Prince of Madness Greg Farshtey came out and publicly said that love, like the emotion, doesn't exist in Bionicle. And this actually is impossible. Let me explain what I mean by that. Exhibit A, Sidorak and Roodaka. We are told multiple times that Sidorak is interested in marrying Roodaka. He wants to make her his queen. And if you listen to Greg Farshtey and the Bionicle propaganda machine, they will tell you that a marriage in Bionicle is purely a diplomatic union. union. Sidequest just wants power. He wants to marry Roodaka because he wants a foothold in her land and influence with her people. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's constantly simping for her. That's incidental. The thing is that this raises a lot of questions about what the term marriage actually means in Bionicle. Because if we're assuming that there is no sexual or romantic component to it, and it's purely diplomatic, how is it different from just an alliance? Like, Sidequest and Roodaka are the co-leaders of the Visorak Horde. They have been working and living together for hundreds of years. How would marriage be any different? Is it that it's permanent? Because everyone is immortal, so I think it would sort of be assumed that no alliance is ever permanent. Is it just that Sidequest is male and Roodaka is female? Is any long-term political alliance between a male and female Bionicle considered a marriage? Because then, again, I would wonder, how is that different from what they already have? Like, is it just about the strength of the alliance? Because then I wonder, okay, is there gay marriage in Bionicle? Like, if Roodaka was male and Sidequest wanted the exact same kind of alliance with him, would that still be a marriage, or does that not count? And then that raises the question of, like, okay, so then what even is gender in Bionicle? Because they have no biological sex, and gender identity doesn't really seem to mean anything to them, so it's all just arbitrary. Why do they even have pronouns? It just raises way too many questions, which I feel like could be much more easily answered by just saying, yeah, it's an alliance, and also Sidequest wants those robo-titties. Okay, alright, so that was Exhibit A. Exhibit B, Matau and Nokama. When I mentioned in the last episode that Matau, the Toa Metru of Air, was extremely obnoxious, a huge part of that is that he is constantly hitting on Nokama, the Toa Metru of Water. Here's him saying he wants to hold her hand. Here's him saying he wants to take a romantic cruise with her. Here's him saying he wishes they will one day be much more than just close friends. So, like, that, it's pretty blatant, man. Now, at this point, I think it's reasonable to be like, okay, here's what happened. Greg Farshtey said that Bionicles don't feel love, but what he meant was that Bionicles are asexual, but not aromantic. It's just that it was 2006, so neither those terms nor that distinction really existed. So he said they don't feel love, but clearly they do feel romantic love, it's just that they don't bang, and that's what he meant. So everything is fine, it actually is consistent, it isn't a retcon, we're all good. Okay, well, first of all, here's him explicitly saying that that isn't what he meant, and they actually are also aromantic, but clearly we can't trust anything this man says, so maybe it is still the asexual thing, and I want it to be that. I want to just leave it alone and have it be that and move on. But there's this one thing. So this is gonna make more sense in a minute, but a major part of this arc is the Toa struggling to control violent impulses and emotions, and there's a part where Nokama is talking to Matau, and in reference to these emotions, she says she's been having trouble controlling certain urges lately. And Matau replies to that, so these urges, do any of them happen to involve me? And please explain to me the non-sexual context of this line. Like, actually, genuinely, please explain to me how Matau asking Nokama if any of her animalistic urges involve him is a non-sexual comment. I would love to know. So basically what I'm saying is that Greg Farshtey lied. Like, that thing he said about love wasn't true. I think what happened was he made Roodaka and then, you know, immediately realized what he had done and tried to overcorrect, and he was like, oh no, man, that Bionicle doesn't have tits. As a matter of fact, Bionicles don't even feel love, and just kind of hoped that we wouldn't notice the massive in-text contradictions that he wrote. But I noticed, Farshtey. I see through your lies and deception, and I will expose them to the world and prove once and for all time that Bionicles do fuck. So anyway, I was talking about something before that happened. The Toa are about to fall to their deaths, right? Yeah, yes, right. So what happened? So the Toa Metru are hanging in these cocoons from the top of the Coliseum, and Sidequest is like, alright, yeah, just drop them to their deaths, I don't give a shit. And Roodaka is like, whoa, 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 hey, come on, this is a perfect opportunity to torture them first. Because she's crazy, and also she wants to collect their elemental powers to use to free Makuta. And Sidequest is like, anything for you, babe. So they leave them up there, and if you're in there for long enough, they start to inject you with this stuff called Hordika venom, which is mutagenic. So as the Toa hang up there, they're injected with this venom, and it transforms them into the Toa Hordika. So the Toa Metru to Toa Hordika transformation is similar in some ways to the Toa Mata to Toa Nuva transformation, but the Toa Nuva transformation was an upgrade, a power-up, allegedly. Whereas the Toa Hordika transformation is at best a lateral move, and more realistically, a pretty severe downgrade. See, the defining factor of the Hordika transformation is that it makes the Toa part Rahi, part animal, and this comes with many problems. The Toa can't use their mask powers anymore because animals can't do that. Their elemental powers are now exclusively tied to their Roodaka spinners, which they don't really know how to use. And then most importantly, this transformation also corrupts their minds. They all now have an animal side to them, and they have to struggle to control bestial instincts. They're kind of like furries. They're furries, okay? They're furries. Now, in terms of design, the Toa Hordika are, ugly. Okay, now, granted, they are supposed to be. They're genetically malformed animal Toa abominations, but there's a difference between ugly and appealing and just not nice to look at. They're just very weird in every aspect. Their arms are mismatched. They've got one arm that's really long, and then their left arm is incredibly short and at this bizarre angle. Like, this is the closest it can get to their body. It just makes them very obnoxious to pose and to, for example, line up next to each other in a very limited space. They've got these huge, flat, chunky feet, this weird chest plate, easily the worst integration of the Roodaka ripcord. You can see it just juts out from under their head. It's very awkward. I do not like how it looks. Honestly, I don't even really think this reads as an animal person. I think it just reads as unappealing. And I wouldn't complain so much, except that 2 years after the Toa Hordika, Bionicle would come out with another set of twisted, mutant, ugly animal people, except they actually look fantastic, so I know they could do better than this. So anyway, the process of transforming into the Toa Hordika causes the Toa to break out of their cocoons and begin to fall to their deaths. But before they hit the ground, they are rescued by these little flying weirdos that come in to save them. And these guys are called the Rahaga. Now, the Rahaga, okay, strap yourself in for this one. So in concept, the Rahaga are to the Toa Hordika what Turaga are to regular Toa. Hence the name, Rahaga, Rahi Turaga, right? So they are older, more experienced animal people who have made peace with their inner beast and aren't tempted by their instincts anymore and are able to advise the Toa on all their new issues. Now, in terms of lore, the Rahaga were formerly the Toa Haga. These extremely badass Praetorian Guard Toa that for some reason LEGO only ever made 2 of, despite the fact that they're like the coolest Toa they've ever made. Now you may well say to that, but Noah, that's sort of hypocritical, isn't it? This is basically the exact same build as the Toa Metru, and you said you didn't like that. Well, first of all, motherfucker, I will point out that the additional armor pieces, the gold and silver accents, the much better masks and color schemes, and the spears are all massive improvements on the Toa Metru design. And secondly, Beyblade Shield. It doesn't really work, but it is cool. Anyway, the Toa Haga once worked for the Brotherhood of Makuta as Makuta's bodyguards. Obviously, Makuta doesn't really need bodyguards, but he's above fighting, like, random animals that accost him, so he had a Toa team to do that. And they discovered that Makuta was evil and was plotting the whole Metru Nui takeover, so they launched a raid against the Brotherhood, during which they actually kind of defeated him and stole a bunch of the Brotherhood shit. But then Roodaka got them with her mutation Roodaka spinner and turned them into the Rahaga, which is what Sidequest claimed credit for. He was like, that was my idea to turn them into Rahaga, even though Roodaka actually did it, but it was my idea, so he got command of the Visorak. And the Rahaga have been kind of following around the Visorak for probably like, I don't know, 1,000 years, trying to basically mitigate their damage and stop them wherever they can. So the Rahaga rescue the Toa Hordika and explain the situation. They're like, okay, you guys are now animal people, you're gonna be wrestling with your extreme edginess for the rest of this arc, and eventually these bestial instincts are just gonna completely take you over and you're just gonna become animals. And the only way for you to stop that from happening is if you track down this special, like, legendary Pokemon Rahi called Keetongu that has the ability to neutralize all poisons. So if you find him, he can turn you back into the Toa Metru. And the Toa Hordika, who are already operating at max maximum edginess are like, we didn't come here to go on some goddamn Rahi scavenger hunt. We're here to free the Matoran. That takes priority. If we find Keetongu while we're doing that, whatever. So the Toa split up, each accompanied by a Rahaga, to go off and do the necessary preparations for getting the Matoran and taking them back to Motunui, all the while pursued by Sidequest and the Visorak, who still want them dead. And this leads into another extended period of everybody's favorite thing, the Toa doing a bunch of stuff. Spider-Man does whatever. This time around, the stuff the Toa are doing mostly focuses around getting parts for airships. They're gonna take the Matoran back to Motunui by airship, and also finding the Mask of Light. Remember the Mask of Light? They gotta find that and take it to Motunui so that all that Mask of Light stuff can happen in like 1,000 years. It's on Metronui because the Rahaga brought it there and hid it there after they stole it from the Brotherhood of Makuta, after they stole it from heaven. That's not a joke, that actually did happen. But all of this is actually pretty tedious. I'm just gonna hit you with a few highlights. First of all, what you should know is that throughout this entire process, the Toa Hordika are just being dicks, just to everybody, to each other, to the Rahaga, to Vakama, especially to Vakama, because again, this entire thing is Vakama's fault. And Vakama's being the biggest dick of all. He's just completely giving himself over to his animal side and going around being like, if they think being the leader is so easy, let them try it. They're not my friends anymore. They don't respect me. I'm supposed to be the leader. They don't respect me. I'm the edgiest man in the world. And the Rahaga that's traveling with him just spends the entire time being like, dude, can you fucking relax? Oh, speaking of interactions between Rahaga and Toa, this isn't important right now, but I have to plant this seed. So there's a part where Nuju, the Toa of Ice, is traveling with one of the Rahaga, and that Rahaga teaches him the language of birds and other flying Rahi. And at the time, Nuju was like, when am I ever gonna use this? But then later on, when he is a Turaga in the Motunui era, he actually exclusively talks in that language, and he's got this Matoran interpreter named Matoran, who goes around with him everywhere, including to like all the Turaga meetings. Again, this doesn't matter right now, but later it's going to matter pretty much as it's possible for anything to ever matter. So yeah, I'm just planting that seed right now. Now you know. And then lastly, Roodaka enlists the help of the Kraka, which I mentioned very briefly in the last episode, to go on some errands for her. But then the Kraka actually ends up working with the Toa and has this really cool little mini character arc where, like, while the Toa are struggling with the beast within them, she, a beast, finds some Toa within her and ends up sacrificing herself during this super sick kaiju battle between Godzilla and this giant Visorak scorpion, and all three of them end up getting sent to the Shadow Realm. It's a long story, I'm not gonna explain it, but before that, when she's still working for Roodaka, she plants some evidence and leads the Toa to some discoveries that reveal a very disturbing truth for them. Alright, so let me walk you through this one. So I mentioned briefly in the last episode that when the Toa Metru first became Toa, they found discs in the temple that had their names and faces on them, and they took this as a sign that they were destined to be Toa and that Lekon didn't just pick 6 random people. However, they find out now that those discs were actually doctored. They didn't originally have their names and faces on them. They had the names and faces of 6 other Matoran. But what's even worse than that is that they find Lekon's diary, in which he reveals that he knew which 6 Matoran were supposed to be Toa, but at the last second he was like, yeah, I know they found the Great Discs, and that's maybe like a sign from the Great Spirit, but it feels too obvious. In my heart, I feel like these 6 other Matoran should be Toa. I woke up today just kind of feeling them. I'm gonna make them the Toa. However, the reason that Lekon woke up with their names in his head is that Makuta telepathically implanted them there. See, Makuta read the stars and found out who was supposed to be Toa, and he was like, okay, well, I can't let that happen. So he picked the 6 Matoran who were the biggest dumbass dickhead idiots he could think of, and he tricked Lekon into picking them. So not only were the Toa never meant to be Toa, they were chosen as Toa by Makuta because they would make terrible Toa. And to put it mildly, this is bad for morale. So most of the Toa are like, alright, well, this sucks. This is definitely a bummer, but but like, we are Toa now, there's nobody else around to do this for us, so we might as well just do our best. But Vakama is like, I'm way too edgy for this to be happening right now. I'm leaving, I'm going off on my own. And within 5 minutes of him going off on his own, he's captured by the Visorak and taken to Spider Jail. And while he's in Spider Jail, who should show up but Roodaka, who is there to basically seduce him. She shows up and she's like, I have an offer for you, Vakama. What could be the harm in listening? It's so uncomfortable. I hate this. I hate what they do with this character. Why are you trying to turn people into mechies, Lego? Oh, side note, I didn't really know where to say this, so I'm just gonna say it now. Apparently, the voice actress who plays Roodaka in the movie also voices a character in My Little Pony. I am not up on My Little Pony lore, but seemingly this character is called Queen Chrysalis and appears to be the Dark Queen of an insect horde, which is insane typecasting. So Roodaka wants to use Vakama in a play to overthrow Sidequest. So she's like, look, Vakama, your team does not respect you. As a matter of fact, they kind of hate you. And moreover, you really think that you and your 5 furry friends are going to be able to defeat me and my 1,000 spiders? It's not going to happen, man. Your best chance of surviving and getting what you want is actually to join me. And if you do that, I will make you field commander of the Visorak Horde. And let me tell you something, the Visorak, they know loyalty and they know obedience. So at this point, Vakama's that thing level has hit critical mass. And he's like, all right, you know what? You're right. My team doesn't respect me. I'm sick of this shit. I want to order around some spiders. I'm giving into the beast inside. I'm just straight up evil now. And his first task as evil Vakama is to go and capture the Rahaga. So he goes to the Great Temple where the Rahaga are looking for directions on how to find Keetongu, and he captures 5 of them, all of them except for their leader, who needs to deliver the message of what he has done to lure the Toa to the Colosseum because Roodaka wants them for her plans also. So the Toa hear about this and they're like, oh, that's not good. Vakama's evil now? Shit. You know what? Maybe we were being kind of hard on him, actually. They weren't, but they say that. And they're like, okay, we gotta go rescue the Rahaga and redeem Vakama, but first we should really find Keetongu. We have directions to where to find him now, so they set off to find Keetongu. Meanwhile, Vakama rolls up to the Colosseum with the captured Rahaga to present them to Sidequest as a token of his loyalty, and I just want you to imagine this scene as if you're Sidequest, okay? So you're Sidequest, you're sitting in your throne room, and Roodaka comes in with this Toa. Roodaka, let's remember, a woman whose throne you stole, who you've been sexually harassing for hundreds of years, who basically openly hates you, and who is a well-known duplicitous psychopath. She comes in and she's like, hey, Sidequest, this is Vakama. No, don't worry, I'm not actually gonna do that. Hey, Sidequest, this is Vakama. He is a red dumbass who is somehow stupider, weaker, and easier to manipulate than you are. I've been spending some personal time with him lately, and I think he'd do really well in our organization. I'd like to bring him in and give him your job. And Sidequest hears this, and he's just like, sounds good to me. And he instates Vakama as commander of the Visorak Horde. He's like, yes, Vakama, you should lead my army, but definitely don't cuck me with Roodaka. That wouldn't be very chill at all. Meanwhile, the other Toa and the leader of the Rahaga follow this path to this weird cave where they do, in fact, find Keetongu. And they're like, oh, okay, hell yeah, we kind of thought you might be a myth, but we came all this way and we found you. Turn us back into the Toa Metru now. And Keetongu's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But the Rahaga leader is like, oh, well, what Keetongu means is that all along you are actually not supposed to be trying to turn back into Toa Metru. You are supposed to be mastering the beast inside and using your Hordika powers to fulfill your destiny. He's not gonna do it, okay? Get fucked. But even though Keetongu won't change them back, he does agree to come with them and help them lay siege to the Colosseum, which leads us into the final battle of this arc. So the Toa pull up to the Colosseum and they're like, Vakama, you goddamn idiot. What the hell do you think you're doing? Get down here, help us fight the Visorak. And Vakama's like, yeah, that's not gonna fucking happen, bro. You guys could've respected me when you had the chance, but now it's too late. I'm a spider guy now. So a huge battle breaks out. Most of the Toa engage with the Visorak, while Matau, the Toa of Air, who was sort of the main one criticizing Vakama before, goes up to fight him one-on-one. Meanwhile, Roodaka and Sidequest are distracted by Keetongu, who is climbing up the side of the tower to come kick their asses. So they start shooting at him while he's trying to climb. Sidequest takes a bunch of shots, but Keetongu dodges them all, and then Roodaka's like, oh my god, you're so incompetent, and takes one shot and knocks him off the building, and he falls like 1,000 feet. And Sidequest is like, oh hell yeah, nice shot. Okay, he's probably dead. And Roodaka's like, whoa, what? No. Let's go down there, both of us, you and me. Let's both go down there and make sure he's dead. Unless you're like some kind of beta male loser who is never getting a piece of these robo titties, and goddamn Simparak is like, oh yeah, no, let's go down there, let's fuck him off. So they go down there, and lo and behold, Keetongu is still alive, and Sidequest is like, the final blow is yours. And Roodaka's like, actually, what if you do it? And she starts walking away, and Sidequest is like, what? No, I can't beat him alone. And Roodaka's like, yeah. And Sidequest is like, wait, hang on, Roodaka, no. And then Keetongu comes up behind him. And Keetongu just smashes Sidequest and straight up kills him. Meanwhile, Matau and Vakama are having an actually pretty sick fight, and Matau is like, look, Vakama, I'm sorry, okay? I shouldn't have said all that mean stuff to you, even though you definitely deserved all of it. We need you and you need us. We're only powerful together. We've got a job to do. We need to free the Matoran. Please stop being evil. And this works. Vakama goes back to being good, and he's like, okay, Matau, come with me. I've got a plan. So meanwhile, on the main battlefield, Roodaka and the Horde have the Toa and the Rahaga cornered. And she's like, all right, look, you guys are pretty much done. I could kill you right now, but I need your elemental powers for my schemes, so gimme them. And Vakama comes up still pretending to be evil, and he's like, yeah, and I also brought the Toa of Air, so now you have all of them. Take their powers, Roodaka, yeah. And the Toa do the classic, like, oh yeah, if you want our powers so much, you can have them. And they all shoot an elemental Ratuka spinner at Roodaka, and Roodaka just eats them all to the face, and she's like, I don't care about this at all. You think you can hurt me? Do you not see the size of my tits? See, Roodaka has read the Bionicle strategy guide, and she knows that the only way to defeat a major villain is for all 6 Toa to combine their powers, and without Vakama, they can't do that. So she's like, you guys are nothing without your unity. What, you can't, and then Vakama's like, actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I'm back to being good, and I'm gonna shoot you also. And Roodaka is like, Vakama, be for real right now, okay? You're surrounded by 1,000 spiders. Even if you do take me out, you're never getting out of here alive. And Vakama is like, oh yeah, well guess what, dumbass? You made me commander of the Visorak. And he's like, yeah, so attention Visorak Horde, as your commander, I'm ordering you to just, like, leave. Like, just get off of Metru Nui. We're done here. Go home. And the Visorak all just saw Roodaka get Sidequest killed, and all already thought she was crazy because she orders them to jump off skyscrapers and shit. And so they're just like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? And they all just leave. And Roodaka's like, traitors! And Vakama's like, you can't betray someone you're enslaved to, dumbass. That's what makes me a leader and not a tyrant like you, dumbass. And then he hits Roodaka with his Ratuka spinner, which does take her out. However, she's been carrying around a piece of Makuta's prison this entire time, and as established in the first episode, the powers of all 6 Toa can also undo a Toa seal. And hitting this shard of Makuta's prison with all of their elemental powers by proxy also undoes the seal on Makuta. And a giant shadow hand comes out of the ground and drags Roodaka away. So Roodaka is defeated, but she also escapes. And with that, the Toa Hordika are victorious. The Visorak are gone, Roodaka is gone, Sidequest is dead, they have saved Metru Nui. So, having conquered their inner beast, they ask Keetongu to turn them back into the Toa Metru, which he does, and so the newly reinstated Toa Metru gather up all the Matoran, load them onto the airships they built, bid farewell to the Rahaga and Keetongu, and set off for the island of Mata Nui. And that's the end of the Metru Nui era. Or it would be, but there's sort of an epilogue. We really should talk about Vakama's stupid fucking side quest for the Mask of Time. So basically, as the Toa are flying out of Metru Nui, Vakama is like, oh yeah, by the way guys, I know you forgot, and by you, I assume he's talking directly to the audience, but during my fight with Makuta, I knocked the Mask of Time out of his hand and into the ocean, and it's probably still down there. Now, if anybody ever finds out it's down there and gets it and it falls into the wrong hands, that could be catastrophically terrible, allegedly. So you guys go on, get the Matoran to safety. I'm going down there on a solo mission. I'm gonna find the Mask of Time Time, I'm gonna get it back. So Vakama goes off to find the Mask of Time, and shockingly quickly for the fact that he's searching for a mask in the whole ocean, he pretty much immediately finds it, but almost drowns in the process. And as Vakama is lying on the beach trying not to die, the Mask of Time is suddenly taken from him by this thing, which is called Voparak. Voparak is a creature created by the Brotherhood of Makuta and then sold off to the Dark Hunters for training. Remember the Dark Hunters? They're that like shady mercenary group that Makuta hired to help in his plans. Doesn't matter. Voparak was created in order to track down the Mask of Time in case it ever came into existence. He's basically completely irrelevant to the lore, but like, look how cool he is, man. This thing is badass. Now, speaking of the Dark Hunters, meanwhile, in their base in a far-off land, the leader of the Dark Hunters, the Shadowed One, is mad. Yes, his name is the Shadowed One, not to be confused with Makuta, the Master of Shadows. This guy doesn't have shadow powers, actually. He's just called the Shadowed One for fun. Now, the Shadowed One is mad because he sent two Dark Hunters, Nidhiki and Kreka, remember them, to help out Makuta in Metru Nui with his old take over the city scheme, and they never came back. They are missing in action because Makuta ate them to turn into Big Makuta, but the Shadowed One doesn't know that. He thinks it was probably Toa that took them out, and he's real pissed off about it. This kind of seems to me like a bad way to run a mercenary organization, but the Shadowed One takes the loss of his people extremely personally, not because he actually like cares about them, but because it's a challenge to his power and he's a little bit insecure about his power. So the Shadowed One and his half-ghost Danny Phantom-ass Lieutenant Sentrak head to Metru Nui to find whoever took out Nidhiki and Kreka and kill them. Meanwhile, Vakama wakes up from almost dying, and initially what seems to have happened is that somebody used the Mask of Time to change the past and create a bad future where Vakama and the other Toa Metru are still Matoran. But then it turns out that none of that actually happened. All of this is just an illusion that Makuta created, because immediately after being freed, Makuta started going after the Mask of Time again. I don't even know why he wants it at this point, and he tried to trick Vakama into telling him where the Mask of Time was with this illusion, but Vakama saw through that, so now he's like, alright, whatever, I guess I'll just beat this information out of you. Where's the Mask of Time at? And Vakama's like, look man, I don't have the Mask of Time, okay? It got taken from me by this big weird time dude. And Makuta's like, oh, shit. Okay, yeah, that'll be Voparak. God damn it. Okay. Well, he probably took that to the Shadowed One, and the Shadowed One probably has his stupid Danny Phantom with him. That's a lot of guys for me to fight by myself. Alright, tell you what, Vakama, you're helping me get the Mask of Time back. So Makuta and Vakama call a truce until they can retrieve the Mask of Time, and this is by far my favorite part of this arc, because we've never really gotten to, like, hang out with Makuta. Every time we've seen Makuta up until this point, he has either been in his lair monologuing or directly fighting the Toa. We've never seen him in his downtime, and we've never seen him casually interact with anybody, and it's fantastic. Makuta's just this arrogant, conceited monster, completely convinced that he is the best guy in the entire universe and should be ruling it, and that nobody around him has anything on him mentally or physically, and for the most part is right. And the best part is his dynamic with Vakama, where basically Vakama is like, you're the worst guy I've ever met. You ruined everything. You destroyed my home. You ruined my life. I hate you so much. I would kill you on the spot if I wasn't bound by Toa law. And Makuta's like, okay, first of all, I'd like to see you fucking try. And then secondly, oh man, you know, that'd be really heartbreaking if it wasn't coming from an inferior life form. And just throughout this whole thing, they have amazing banter. I'm gonna put some of it up on screen, and I really recommend that you pause and read it because I genuinely think it's very funny. So a bunch of actually very cool fights happen, but I'm summarizing, and eventually it ends up as a standoff between Makuta, Vakama, and the Shadowed One, who at this point is in Metru Nui and has the Mask of Time. And the Shadowed One is like, I'm claiming this mask for the Dark Hunters. We'll be unstoppable. And I'm also gonna kill this Toa because he killed my men and I'm taking revenge. And Makuta's like, I'm not really so sure about that Mask of Time part. I'm pretty sure that mask is mine. But tell you what, yeah, that Toa definitely did kill your guys. It was him. Go ahead and kill him, and then we'll discuss the mask like grown men. What do you say? And Vakama looks at the Shadowed One. He looks at Makuta, who, again, ate the Shadowed One's men, and is literally standing there actively made out of their body parts. Looks back at the Shadowed One, and he's just like, bro... What? So Vakama points out the very obvious fact that Makuta was the one that killed those guys, not him. And the Shadowed One is like, this is unacceptable. This means war between the Brotherhood and the Dark Hunters. And Makuta's like, okay, yeah, bet. Whoever wins gets the mask. And while they're going, Vakama actually manages to snatch the Mask of Time and flee. And in Vakama's flight, he eventually ends up in the ruins of his old forge, where he encounters none other than Karzani. Remember Karzani? It was that evil plant that I mentioned at the end of the last episode. It tried to get the Toa to bring it energized protodermis so that it would live, but then it died. Ah, yes, I actually hitched a ride with you guys from Matanui to here. And when I was submerged in the silver sea of Matranui, a small part of me began to grow, and now it has grown into a new Karzani. I am reborn. And it explains all this, hoping for some kind of big response from Vakama, but Vakama has been through so much shit in the past, like, month. He's just totally over it. He barely even knows who this guy is. He's just like, okay, good for you. And what does that got to do with me? And Karzani's like, oh, I'll tell you what it's got to do with you, Vakama. I've got a very important secret to share with you. And then it reveals to him and to us my second favorite plot twist in all of Bionicle. This twist that I'm about to share with you, I love it so much because it's such a Bionicle plot twist. It barely makes any sense. It's extremely complicated, and it kind of ruins the themes of this entire era. So let me walk you through this. We know that Makuta looked at the stars and found out who was supposed to be the Toa Metru, and then implanted the wrong names in Leekon's mind, and Leekon made the wrong people Toa. But what we didn't know is that the stars lied to Makuta. Matanui himself knew that Makuta was going to pull this shit, so he changed the stars to give Makuta the wrong names, and then implanted the right names into Makuta's head, so that Makuta would implant those names into Leekon's head, thinking they were the wrong names, but they actually were the right names all along, and Leekon did make the right people Toa, because Matanui knew that the only way to make sure that the right people became Toa was to trick Makuta into making it happen himself, which completely ruins the themes of this era. Because the whole point of this era was that these are unlikely heroes. They don't get along. They don't know how to be Toa. They can't follow a leader or work together. And eventually they find out that they were never even meant to be Toa. But they are the ones that are here, the ones with the power and the responsibility to do what needs to be done, so they will do it because that is what heroes do. And even though they came from an unlikely place, they are heroes. Except fuck all of that, because they were meant to be the Toa Metru all along, so all of this was just destiny. So Karzani explains all this, and Vakama is like, oh, good, I guess. And then Makuta shows up, and Makuta just kills Karzani immediately. So glad Karzani came back. Makuta's like, okay, Vakama, I feel like we've been here before, but, give me the mask or I'll kill you. And Vakama's like, not so fast, Makuta, you piece of shit. You take one more step toward me, I'm gonna smash the Mask of Time with a hammer, which will destroy the entire timeline. And guess what, loser? All your schemes rely on the existence of linear time to pull off, and I'm legitimately crazy, bro. I will destroy all of time just to stop you from getting your way, so I guess you better back off, bozo. And Makuta's like, all right, fine. What do you want? And Vakama's like, I want you to leave us and the Matoran alone. And Makuta's like, absolutely the fuck not. I'm giving you 1 year to get acclimated to the new island, and then you'll hear from me again. I'll tell you that much. So Vakama, victorious and with the knowledge that he truly was meant to be a Toa, even though that kind of ruins everything, returns to Matanui with the rest of the Toa Metru, where they sacrifice their Toa powers and transform into Turaga in order to reawaken the Matoran and start a new life on on their new island and await the day where new heroes would come and save them once and for all from Makuda's tyranny, which brings us right back around to the start of the Motonui era. And now, in modern times, Makuda is defeated at last, and the Matoran and Turaga finally return to Metronui to reclaim their home and begin reawakening the Great Spirit. Now, at this point, you may well be asking, okay, so what was the point of all of this? As in, like, what was the point of the entire Metronui era? Why did we have this flashback to 1,000 years ago, and what do the events we just saw have to do with what is going to happen next? And the answer to that is not a lot, but also you're not looking at it the right way. See, the Metronui era isn't really about what happened, it's about what we learned about the world of Bionicle. See, much like the Matoran of Motonui, we entered the world of Bionicle in an isolated location with no knowledge of the past or the context that it gives our current circumstances. But again, like the Matoran of Motonui, we are now entering a phase of the story in which the past and the world and the context it provides us is vitally important. So if you want to hear about that, which I assure you do, then subscribe to the channel so you're notified when I drop the next one. And I will see you all in part 3, the Voyanui era, where we learn that God is dying, hell is real, and Bionicles can be racist. See you next time.